Welcome to another story. Today's story is called Stranger Things by Kim Washburn. It's another story from the Clubhouse Jr magazine. Dex peered over the edge of the diving board and took a giant step back. "Hey, Leo," he whispered to his friend standing in line behind him. "Do you think the lifeguard will rescue me if I sink?" "You have your water wings on," Leo replied. "You won't sink." "Stranger things have happened," Dex whispered. "Remember when Sam slipped on a wet raisin, slid into the super duper deep end of the pool? The lifeguard caught him," Leo answered. "Sam's hair didn't even get wet." "Yeah," Dax replied, "but he could have sunk like a stone." Leo shook his head. Dax looked over the side of the pool. His dad waved as he stood next to Miss Molly, the lifeguard. Dax moved forward a baby step. He closed his eye and plugged his nose. "Oh no," Dex said, his eyes popping open. "Hey, Leo," he whispered, backing up a step. "What if I forget to close my mouth? I could choke on a gallon of water." "Choke?" Leo said. "Stranger things have happened," Dex whispered, as he looked down at the water. "Remember yesterday? Maria saw that bee bump my forehead. Her mouth flew open and the bee bounced right in. Even after the bee flew away, Maria choked and gagged for like an hour." Leo thought for a second. "Maria jumped in the pool after Miss Molly patted her back 3 times?" he said. "Yeah," Dex replied, "but she could have coughed for days." Leo shook his head. Dex looked at the long line behind him and took a baby step forward. "There sure is a lot of water in this pool, Leo," he whispered over his shoulder. "Enough water for a shark." "Sharks can't live in swimming pools," Leo replied. "Stranger things have happened," Dex whispered. "Remember last summer when Mike was splashing with the first graders and he started doggy paddling from the side? He told Miss Molly some humongous sea creature had just bitten her. Her brother pinched her toe," Leo said. "Well," Dex replied, "it could have been a giant sea monster." Leo shook his head. Dex inched backward. Finally, he turned around, stepped to the back of the board, and climbed down the ladder. "I'll talk to you after lunch," he said, sliding past his friend. Dex sat near the diving board with a towel around his shoulders as he bit into his sandwich. He looked at the tree above him. "Look, Dad," he said, pointing to a low branch as a bird family is eating its lunch. "Just like us." Dex took another bite of his PB&J and just watched the nest. When the birds finished pecking their seeds, they started to move around. The little birds hopped close to the edge of the nest, then moved back. Each time the mama bird poked him with a beak. He would hop forward, look down, and hop back. Dex's dad laughed. "It's okay, little guy," he said to the bird. "There is no reason to be afraid. Your mommy won't let you hurt yourself." Dex looked at his dad. "If you don't take the first jump," his dad continued, "you'll never leave the nest." Dex finished chewing the last bite of his sandwich. He swallowed the last drop of his juice. "I'm ready to go off the diving board," he announced. "Are you sure?" his dad asked. Dex stood up and nodded. "Dad, if I don't take this first jump, I'll never leave the shallow end." Dex and Leo waited in line for their turns on the diving board. Dex climbed up the ladder and walked to the end of the board. He peeked over the edge and backed up a giant step. "Hey, Leo," he whispered to his friend. "What if I didn't wait long enough after eating? I could get a big cramp in my side and be stranded in the middle of the pool." "You waited an hour," Leo replied. "Stranger things have happened," Dex said. Just then Dex saw the nest out of the corner of his eye, with his mama right next to him. The little bird took a small hop forward. He perched on the edge of the nest and peered down. Then with a fluff of his feather he jumped. Dex watched the bird flap his wings and glide safely to the grass. Dex grinned at Leo and stepped forward. He plucked his nose, held his breath, and jumped as far as he could. With a big splash, Dex landed safely in the pool. He didn't sink, he didn't choke, and there wasn't a sea creature in sight. Dex doggy paddled to the side without another thought. Without another thought, he smiled at his dad and rushed to the back of the line at the diving board.